Okay, welcome back everybody to another lecture. Today's unit will be receive and store stock. The unit code is SITXINV001. So throughout this recording you are more than free to revise or replay the video how many times you'd like. We're going to be going through all the slides, and in between we'll take time to pause to do the activities. So based on your own pace, unpause the video and continue on with the learner workbook as you would. If you need to revisit anything, you're more than welcome to. If you've got any questions, just send me an email through at admin@wisemanaducation.com.au. If if you see me face to face, just ask me and I'll try and steer you in the right direction. So let's begin. Take delivery of stock. 1.1. Check incoming stock against orders and delivery documentation. So whenever we order something, we could do it by email, by phone, we could be doing it by text. It just depends on what formal processes the supplier has. We also have a stock take sheet and a order sheet that we would process to our suppliers. So if we need to communicate those, we could essentially send it via email, scan it or post it via email, or we could text it to the supplier. So once it comes in, we need to make sure whatever we've ordered is exactly what we're getting. Nothing more, nothing less. And the product shouldn't be damaged, shouldn't look out of place anywhere, shouldn't be cross-contaminated, such as chemicals being in food products or vice versa in any way. They shouldn't be bringing in raw meats at the wrong temperature. They shouldn't be, if you're ordering hot food, they shouldn't be bringing in hot food at cold temperatures, in the sense that they're room temperature. If they should be either bringing it out above 60, or they should be bringing out cold food below 5. If it's frozen, you're expecting it to be below freezing, so anywhere below -10 I would accept. If it's around just freezing of water, you've got to really think about how long this frozen product has been out, because it was already frozen, now it's almost defrosted, so how long has it really been outside? So think about your temperature ranges when you're getting raw food or cooked food. And then jotting those down, ticking off all the products on your list that you have, and then signing off, paying the bill, and then forwarding the invoice on to the proper personnel in your business. If it's a supervisor, manager, whoever it might be, might just be you, but you're filing those away for future records kind of thing. So checking incoming stock. Stock refers to the goods or materials that are stored on the grounds of an organization prior to production, sale, or further distribution. The procedures for checking incoming stock will often depend on the type of items that are being delivered to your organization. So like I said before, if you're getting dry goods, okay, you're checking the packages, you're checking if there's been cross-contamination. If you're getting raw goods, you're checking the temperatures, what type of raw goods are they, what are your receiving temperatures you should be getting, such as below 5 or above 60 if you're getting cooked food. So thinking about those things and making sure that they're all in those correct value points. Purchase orders. So the following should be included in your purchase order: a delivery address, so you know if I was going to put my home address, I'm sure my stock won't arrive to the restaurant. So it's very important to have the correct delivery address. The order date, the date you sent the order, the buyer contact details, so if the supplier has any questions, they can get in touch with me. Name of the items or product number. I would include both. I wouldn't just put one. More than likely, if your supplier is big, they will have a product number and code that they use for their computer systems, but definitely you're going to include a item name, quantity of items. This is how your supplier will know how many they have to send to you. The price per item. So you're thinking about as a whole or as a quantity what you would buy regularly and what the price per item would be. So sometimes you purchase per carton, let's say of plasticware or utensils, but they would still sell per item. So even if you have 500 containers, they would say it's 18 cents per container in a box of 500. XYZ is the total price. Okay, and the total price of all the items in that invoice that you're going to be purchasing from them, and then you're making sure that whatever you have sent is the same as whatever they are bringing to you, so they're not charging you something extra that you're not expected, to pay. Alright, so within your work environment, so this would be the restaurant at the college, check incoming stock against orders and delivery documentation on at least one occasion. So physically, you guys need to make sure that you check the invoice and make sure you have all the stock that is required attached to that invoice. So here in this activity, I would want you guys to make sure that you write in that space that you have gotten an invoice from the supervisor, you've waited for the delivery, then you have checked the conditions of the products that you are receiving them in. The raw foods, you've checked the temperatures. The cooked foods, you have checked the temperatures. You've checked the use by dates are at least long enough for you to use them in a expected period of time that you'd be doing your service, and they're not going to be expired today. Then you would move on to the exact quantities that you've ordered. Once you have the right amount of quantity there, you would move on to now checking that the invoice matches your order or purchase order, and seeing that you're paying what you're expected to be paying, and then there's no unexpected pricing there. And then once you're done with that, you would store it in a proper location, either in a cool room if it's vegetables or cooked items or whatever it might be, or in a freezer if it's frozen items, or in a dry storage area if it's dry goods. Okay, so write that down. When you're ready, unpause the video and we will move on to the next one. So 1.2, identify, record and report discrepancies. So this is very important, as in is if your delivery driver brings in 10 less products than you'd expect, and now you've paid for it and you didn't mark it down or check, now you've lost the money and you're on the hook for those 10 items that you missed out. So it's very important, because the delivery driver is going to say, yep, I delivered everything, they signed it off, and they'll look at your signature, yes, you accepted everything and you've got everything. But now you've come, you've checked all the boxes after you've sent the driver home and accepted everything, and you are out of pocket for those 10 items now because you didn't receive them and you said you did. So now it's an issue. So who's going to be paying for it? The owner? Most likely he will take the loss if he's a good guy, but if it's you, you're the one that's, if you own the business, you're the one that's going to take the loss. So try and not do that. Avoid it as much as you can. I know we're not perfect, but if we can avoid having stock issues, then less money is wasted essentially for the time, for the supplier's time, for your time, because you're now having to talk with this guy, waste maybe 10 to 20 minutes looking through everything and then moving forward into storing it all. And then if it's not the right thing, you've just wasted your half an hour to 45 minutes on doing all of that when it was incorrect. So recording these are very important. Alright, quantity discrepancies. When oversupply has occurred, you should not simply take the additional goods or materials, as the company could have already been charged for these or may be charged at a later date. When the quantity of the stock supplied falls below the ordered number, you should also take prompt action. So simple as that. If they give you too much, return what they've given you that is in excess. If they've not given you enough, stop them and say, I ordered 10, you only gave me 8. Can you either take it off the invoice, or can you produce another 2 so I'm giving you the correct payment. Incorrect items. You should be able to identify where the incorrect goods have been delivered by comparing on order form or purchase order within the receipt or packing order. For example, the names of the goods and product numbers will not match. So sometimes you also get suppliers giving you different branded items. You know, let's say if you're going garlic powder and you're used to getting one brand, and then they try and give you a cheaper one just for their bottom line, or the previous product has gone up in price and it's not in your price range anymore. So what your product number might be will not be the same, even though the product name is the same. So you got to check all these things when it get to you. Okay, and there's so many variations. If you say cooking oil to one of these suppliers, you know, they're gonna ask you 7 different variations that they have on stock. You know, so you've got to really know what you're ordering and what you're receiving, because sometimes you might be ordering something really expensive, paying for it, like a low cholesterol sunflower oil, and then they give you a corn oil that's the cheapest in the market, and then now you're stuck with, you know, subpar oil that you don't really want to use in your food, but because you didn't check, you know, you've got all this like $30 worth of oil that you're not going to be using. Alright, so activity 1B, during the checking of the incoming stock against documentation, identify any discrepancies. If any discrepancies have arisen, follow your workplace procedure to record and report them to the necessary personnel. So if there are, in this case, any issues that you will find, then most likely the items will be missing. So your invoice will have a higher amount of a certain item, or a item that you didn't actually receive. So what would you do in this case? So the first process, you would obviously let the driver know, and then the driver would, you know, handwrite a note on your invoice that they give to you. You would then send an email off, or any form of communication that you regularly do with your supplier, whether via phone call, and keep a record of that phone call. I would most likely try and contact them over email, so that it is consistent and you have records of your communication between each other. Once you've checked that you don't have the items, you would let your supervisor know. If you need to do a report, you would complete the report saying what was missing, why it was missing, and what you did to rectify the situation. So in this case, you had called the supplier, you'd let your supervisor know in the workplace that you had low stock and what you did. So it could be that you pulled the item off the menu, or you quickly sourced it from another supplier at a higher price or equal price to rectify the situation. Okay, alright, so mention those, complete that, unpause the video when you're ready, and we can move on to the next one. Take delivery of stock. 1.3. Inspect items for damage, quality, and use by dates, and record findings according to organisational procedures. So very important when you receive them. If you get damaged products, you want to be refusing delivery. If you're accepting the stock but writing on the paperwork that the goods are damaged, especially if your driver's a good guy and you know him and he's regular, and it's trustworthy, right? So then you're accepting it. But if it's damaged stock, I wouldn't be receiving it, to be honest. It's not my responsibility to take somebody else's rubbish stock. What am I going to do with it? So think about what you're doing. If you are taking damaged stock, I would send it back. That's my opinion. Alright, noting the damage in a spreadsheet or a stock book, letting your supervisors and chefs know, very important, because if you're going to take damaged stock, they need to be ready. They need to be thinking about, okay, how we're going to use it. If you're thinking about, okay, we're going to take some wilted tomatoes, yes, they can use that in some sort of saucing or some sort of soup or gravy, fine. But if you think about let's say we've got a bag of flour. Now there's all these insects in there. How are we going to use that? That's fully damaged. That's off. You know, you can't use that. What are you going to do with it? There's no point taking it. So really, I would not take any damaged stock. That's my opinion. Alright, contact your supplier immediately. Let them know what's happened. Take photographs. Highlight where the damages are. Write a report if you've got one in the workplace. Complete that report. Submit it to both the supervisor in the workplace or your manager, and then also forward that report onto and the images onto your supplier so they can rectify the situation as soon as possible. I would also try and take some initiative onto rectifying the situation on your end. Maybe you could contact another supplier and they can quickly produce that stock for you. Alright, we're checking use by dates. So if you're thinking about what is use by dates and what is best before, we want to have optimum flavor of something. So when it says best before, that's a recommendation by the production company saying the most flavor will be at this point. After this, it will just lose its flavor. So, and then there are use by dates. So use by dates are specified dates that that the manufacturer is telling you, or the producer is telling you that you should not be using this after that. So it's essentially expired after that date. But sometimes these dates don't matter because you've stored it wrong, or the supplier has stored it wrong. So the product could be off even though they use by dates for another month, and now you're stuck with things that are off. So you need to check physically what the condition of the product is, if it's in good condition, if there's no mold or fungus or rodent marks or things like that, or ripped packaging. Okay, it's very important to check those. Alright, so it might not be possible to check every individual item that has been delivered to your organization, but you ought to select a sample of goods to ensure that the use by dates are sufficient. Quality checks. You may need to establish: does the item have the same appearance as demonstrated by the supplier? Does the item work as intended? Are the size specifications as described? Are the product materials of the expected up to standard? Okay, activity 1C. If you notice stock items are damaged, what actions does your organizational procedures claim you should take? Provide the example. So, if we're thinking about a Kush restaurant, if we have damaged stock, first of all, on delivery, we would let the delivery driver know. Secondly, we would refuse to take the stock. Then we would let the supplier know directly. Thirdly, we would do a report on what the damage was or what the issue was with the product, and then submit that report to our supervisor and manager, and so that they notify our team that we're short on this item, and then we would try and source, if we would still want to produce that specific item, try and source it from another supplier. Okay, so include that process in your examples, and that should be it. So we're going through 3 to 4 steps, and that's what we're going to be doing. Alright, what questions should you seek the answers to when making quality checks? Provide at least 2 examples. So when you're looking at quality checks, you're looking at it visibly. Does it have any fungus? Does it have any deterioration anywhere, broken packaging, things like that. Use by dates, you're looking at your expected color. Is it the right branding? If it's coming in a box, why doesn't the box have the exact branding that you had? Okay, maybe they're purchasing it somewhere. Ripped packaging that looks like it's been opened before and then sealed with something else. The color is different than what it used to be. You're looking at all of these things and you're making sure, okay, why is it different? If it is different, is it going to be any lesser of a product? So it's not really your responsibility to make sure what's happening in the production facility or at the supplier's warehouse, But let's say you're getting a product that says it's going to be expiring 10 months from now, but because they put it in the wrong conditions, exposed it to open light or in an open area somewhere, now they're coming to you and saying, oh, we've kept this fine, but it looks like what it shouldn't be. So it looks the opposite of what the product should be like, and it looks off. Don't accept it. Okay, so in that, include those examples, complete those questions, and once you're ready, we can move on to the next one. So unpause the video then. When you come back, we'll move on to the next one. Take delivery of stock. 1.4. Record details of incoming stock according to organizational procedures. So when we've getting stock, we would put it into our software system. So all the chefs, all the kitchen people would know what sort of items that we need to, or that we need to purchase in the future, what has come in from our recent delivery. Could be that we put in a purchase but they did not have an item, so then we would put our reasoning to what we were given, what reasonings we were given for why they didn't have the item. If it's a possible seasonal item, instead of us now trying to find it somewhere else, we could look at that possible answer or reasoning, and then everybody would know, okay, we don't have fresh mangoes all around the year. We would only have it seasonally, Alright, so inputting details into the workplace system, date and time the items were received, the supplier, the intended department if applicable, the quantity of the goods delivered, the name of the employee that opened and inspected the stock. Submitting details of incoming stock. The recording of incoming stock should be submitted into a workplace system shortly after stock has been transferred to the storage area. Paper formats of stock details could be stored in a filing system in an office location, while electronic copies should be saved in a specific folder. List 4 different details of incoming stock that you need to record according to organizational procedures. So we've got the details here, the date, time, supplier, intended department, the quality of goods delivered, and the employee who opened and stocked them away. You could also put in stock times, the type of stock that you received, raw foods, temperatures that you received them in. There's more things you could, but that's the bare minimum that you want to at least have on your records there. And why is it important for management personnel to always have up-to-date information on stock? Very important, because they're the ones that are controlling the money. If they don't know that they're out of bread, they're not going to put any funds for bread purchasing. So they need to know. Also, it's important for them to know what is here, what isn't here, why isn't here, what was the issues for us to source that item, and are we going to look for a substitute, or are we going to try and look for another supplier? So they're the ones making the decisions. Most of them are the ones putting in the orders. We're just here to receive the item and make sure that it's the same. So they need to know what's going on, what the reasoning was that we didn't get those stocks, so they can take further action, because they're higher up. Most people will give them more importance when they say something compared to us, even though it shouldn't be. It's just how the world works. So it's important for them to know so they can take the proper action. Alright, so complete that, unpause the video when you're ready, and we can move on to the next one. Alright, 2.1. Promptly transport stock to and store in appropriate storage areas. So this is very much now you've gone into storing, right? So you've accepted the order, you've made sure all your stock is in the correct quality and quantity that you wanted it to be, and you have the right brands and all those things. Now you're putting them away according to the recommendation of those production companies. So some items put in a dry area, no humidity. Some items you might put where there's low light. Some items you put in the fridge. Some items you put in the freezer. Some items you put in the crisper, depending if it's vegetables or wilting flowers. If they're packaged, you want to package them. If they're giving you fresh Spinach, leaving them in an open container is just going to make them wilt, so you need to wrap them in plastic. You got to have those specific processes in for specific stock items. So transporting stock to a storage area. Storage areas may be differentiated by the name of the building, the storage room or number, the row or aisle within a storage area, the level of storage, floor, or the specific equipment that you're putting it in. Okay. Handling stock according to manufacturer's instructions. This could mean picking up stock while holding a particular side, holding stock upright, being very careful not to shake, drop, or knock the item, handling particular stock items with extra care. Storing stock items. To store or display stock, you should understand the stock item, its function, and its value. Group similar items together. Designate specific areas in the stock room or on the shop floor for certain stock items. Consult with supervisors and or managers if you are unsure of where to locate a particular stock item. Alright, 2A. Briefly describe how to identify where stock items need to be stored within your workplace. So you're really using those, like I said before, the type of item that you have against where it should be stored. So you're going to be using the manufacturer's recommendations first, then you would use your own common sense. So if it says store chicken in fridge below 5 degrees, but you're not going to be using this chicken maybe for 2 weeks, what do you need to do? Freeze it. So think about it in a common sense approach. Also, we're looking at the spacing that you have. If you've got a shelf that might not hold a specific bottle or a specific quantity of items, you need to now think about, okay, how do I rectify this situation? Where can I put it that's the same space? How can I do it? Maybe you have to break it down if you're going to open up the packaging and then, you know, create your own packaging. That's going to kind of lower the quality of your item because it's been opened. So you're really considering those aspects as you're going through it as well. So now you're looking at the location of where you're going to put it. If it needs to be transported somewhere else, maybe to a different location, different building, etc. Right? Highlight 3 examples of actions you may need to take or things you might have to be aware of when stock taking items. So you're looking at the best before dates, you're looking at the use by dates, you're also looking at the quantity, the quality of the item, if there's any damage, you're looking at are there things that are in there such as fungus or unexpected things that shouldn't be in there. You know, sometimes you get insects in granulated things, so they like flour, they like sugar. If you've got little damage or little gaps where they can walk in, you know, now your whole item's damaged. So you're looking for those things. You're also looking for okay, if I've got a shortage, why is the shortage? Okay, we've been using this item a lot, alright, no problem. Or is it out of season? Maybe it's not available anymore. Things like that you're also worrying about. Okay, so include those in there, complete your answers. Once you're ready, you know, use some of your own ideas as well. When you're ready with that, unpause the video and come back and we can move on to the next one. Store stock. Use safe manual handling techniques to avoid injury when moving and storing stock. So lifting heavy items, consider the following safe lifting practices. Try to avoid bending from the back to lift a heavy item. Lift with your legs, do the work for you. So if you're lifting with your legs, you're not really using a lot of your muscles that you don't use. So the reason why we get hurt in our back, because we don't work out our back. A lot of bodybuilders and fitness gurus, they treat you how, they show you how to engage those muscles properly. But in a person, in any normal person's case, we're not really strengthening our back. So what happens is when we try and lift things with our back and there's no support, we permanently damage the portions in our backs that we're using to lift those things. But if we use our legs, our knees, we're bending them correctly, putting right distances between our hips and our knees, and making sure that we're at a nice spread out form, we will lessen the impact on our body compared to if we're doing it very stiff, you know. Also, when you're lifting heavy things, try and loosen up. It's very much exercise, you know, you're moving your body, so it's very important so that you are able to kind of fluidly move. So think about it as you go for a run. You want to stretch out before you go for that run. So stretch out before you go for that lift. Okay? Once you have a grasp of the item, straighten up, shoulders straight. Keep the item close to your body. So you want to have the center of gravity as close to you, to your center of gravity, so it's not really putting you off balance. You also want to be holding it in a position that's not awkward to you. So having your shoulders up and straight most likely will be your most comfortable position, unless you're used to slouching for some reason. But most people aren't. So straighten up, shoulders up, and lift strong and steady. No quick movements. Take it slow. If you need help, ask for help. Okay? Keep the load close to your waist. If you feel pain, take a break or seek support. Okay? Lower the items gently. You don't know what sort of things might be in the boxes. Could be fragile things, so be slow. Take it easy. Don't damage the product in any way. Use lifting aids. So anything that's heavy, you can use a forklift, or you've got hand lifts, things like that you can use at the workplace. The use of lifting aids can help to significantly reduce the time it takes to transfer stock from one location to another. It can be easily, especially important in large organizations where numerous items have to be maneuvered across a large area. Lifting aids present various hazards that need to be controlled. So if you think about if we're thinking about a trolley, there's not much training that you need to do on the trolley, but still how to use one, yes, I would suggest if you are a supervisor or manager in your area, train any new staff in how to use them. Okay. Forklifts, this is interesting. In some countries you don't need license to drive a forklift. In Australia you do. So you will need to train, or have them be trained at a business or training venue that is licensed to train that item. Make sure they're deemed competent, or you are deemed competent, and then you'll be able to use those machinery. Don't use it if you have not been trained. You'll hurt somebody else or hurt yourself. So you don't want to be taking those risks. Okay? Identifying hazards, conducting site safety audits, observing daily activities, investigating accidents and incidents, investigating staff complaints or reports of safety concerns, reviewing staff feedback. Very important that you're observing all these things, because now they can be claiming workers' compensation. If they've been lifting the thing wrong and they've been taught a specific way but they aren't following it and they're now doing it wrong, then down the line they're going to try and claim workers' compensation. It's not on. It's a loss to the business. So you need to be stopping that as soon as possible, making sure that they are doing the task in the proper way so that it's managed in the correct way. Don't just let it continue to happen, because down the line you're going to lose staff. You're going to have to pay out of pocket to get these people back to where they were before, and then retrain them, and there's a lot of expenses with that. So if you see improper things happening, stop it as soon as you can. Okay? Get other people to notify you if you're not there. You can't have, you don't have the eyes on the back of your head as well. So have other people involved. Ask them questions. What's happening? What's wrong? So on a regular basis, what needs to improve, or if we need equipment. If we need a forklift and everybody's lifting oils continuously and we need a forklift, okay, all right, how do we justify buying a forklift? Because we have all these heavy items that we need to lift every day. Okay, all right, no problem. So, but if you let this happen and people are always getting sore backs or hands or hurting themselves, you're going to be losing staff in that case. Okay. Alright, 2B, outline the safe manual handling techniques you need to adopt to avoid injury when moving stock. So think about the correct knee and hip positioning, using your legs to enable you to lift, not your back, having the center of gravity of the item very close to you, having the item close to your waist and not above your head or below your knees or anything like that, just so it's comfortable, having your shoulders and back straight up so you're not in an awkward position. If it's got directions, following the directions on how to handle that item, use help, take breaks in between if it's heavy or that you need a break, use protective gear like gloves or safety boots. Okay. Alright, so number 2, list a minimum of 4 safety instructions that need to be followed when operating a forklift to transport and store stock. So if you're using a forklift, very important, you need to be trained. If you are not trained, do not operate a forklift. Secondly, making sure everybody knows that there's a forklift coming. If you are using it, using the proper base equipment like a tray or a rack to lift items. You're not lifting things that are not supposed to be lifted by the forklift. You're abiding by the restrictions of the machine, so if it says only 300 kilos, you're not trying to put 310 kilos on there, otherwise the machine will not be happy, will break, and now you're in deep trouble. Okay. Also, you're thinking about when you're reversing or approaching somebody, if there are people around, make noise. Use the horn that's there. Think about the people around you. Okay. Also, maintenance. You don't know if the equipment has been maintained properly. Do a thorough check before you use it, before it breaks down on you and you're in the midst of lifting 500 kilos and then it breaks and now everything is on you. You don't want to be in that position. Okay. Also, be aware of people that are around you. It's a car. It's a small car, so if you're going to hit somebody, it's going to cause some damage. So make sure you're taking care of you and everybody around you. Okay. So when you're done with that, unpause the video and we will move on to the next one. Okay. So finish that and come back. 2.3, label stock according to organizational procedures. For EQUISH, we always do the date that we've created or received the stock, the ideal day that we're going to use it by, and the item name. So that's, for us, that's really important, especially because we're cooking food, right? A lot of the dry goods will have the name, so we won't be worried about that. It will have the use by date or best before. We won't worry about that, but we're worried about, okay, where are we putting that in, right? So if we're labeling the location, that's basically to tell the other staff, okay, this needs to go to this specific area, because you as the manager or department head might not be putting these things away. It might be someone else. But if you are, okay, now we're thinking about how many quantities we had. So if when we create items, we label them with the numbers, right? So if we made 13 items, or we had 13 items, we would put the first one that we can get access to as 13, and then 12, and 11, and then 10. So as we reach a number that we're not happy with, so if we've only got 3 left, we would, and we think that 3 will not last us the delivery cycle for the next, we would put in a purchase order so that we have enough for the next cycle. So we would order another 3. So now we would move all the old stock to the front, remove that old numbering and give it a new number. So then we ordered another 10. So then we had the last 3 left. So we put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and then the old stock we would remove that number and then put in 11, 12, 13. So now we know we have 13 in that row of items that we're going to be using. So it's just helpful thing for us to kind of keep in mind physically, because a lot of the staff will hesitate to use the online storing system or stock system. So it just depends on your age demographic, who you've got working for you. If it's a young people, have no problem with technology. A bit older, they are more hesitant. Okay. So following organizational procedure, organizational procedures may state the details that need to be included on the label, such as the name of the item, supplier, the date the item was delivered, where the label should be placed, things like that. Okay. Labeling stock, what items are going to be placed in front of or on the top of each other within a storage facility. Think about how employees will be able to locate items promptly. It would be impractical, for example, to place labels on the top of stock items and then stack further items that cover the label. Right, exactly. So you don't want to be covering up things that you can't see. You don't also want to be putting, okay, let's say you only have one shelf, and you don't want to be putting items in front of items. Try and keep them in the same row, so then people can see, okay, we have no rice, we need to order rice, even though you put 10 bags of salt in where the rice should be. Okay, so don't put things, try and be organized in your storing. Okay, 2C, in no more than 300 words, so that's about 1 page. So just in that box for your learner workbook, describe organizational procedures that you need to follow when labeling stock. So first I would start off with the organizational procedures may include these things, and then I would expand. So such as, you need to include the labeling on the item, the name of the item, the supplier, the date it was delivered, the best before, the used by. You're also looking at how many quantities you have. You're also looking at the location. It should be where the label is supposed to go. All these things that you need to. So elaborate on that a little bit, and then move towards not putting the label on a location where people can't see it. You want to put it in the right place, and then putting it in its designated area. You don't want to just put things in random. There might be a specified area for that item, so you want to put it there so everybody can find it. Okay, so expand on that. Once you're done, come back and we'll move on to the next one. 2.4, report on excess stock according to organizational procedures. So managing stock levels. Advantage of high stock levels: you can always deal with the demands of customers, include sudden increase in demand. Customers will not be left dissatisfied by stock running out. Production will not be halted when items are required for manufacturing goods. Managing stock levels for advantage of low stock levels. So storage costs are reduced. Security costs are likely to be lower. Cash will not be tied up in stock. Perishable items are less likely to become wasted. So essentially what we're trying to determine between these two is, okay, when we've got high stock levels, we're able to make more. So we have more to sell to customers, where we're not really going out and buying stuff repetitively, wasting time doing that, right? Your customers are happy when they want something, they have it. It's not an issue. And you're able to tell your workers that, okay, don't worry, we can produce a lot of stuff. We don't have to go out every hour to purchase, or every day to purchase something that we need, right? But the opposite is, if you think about having more items, in this case low stock levels would be the opposite. You would need to put more money into your stock, right? You need to have security watching more spaces. Instead of having 3 shelves, maybe now you have 3 storage rooms that you need to secure. Locks, cameras, all these things, costs, right? There's also the thing about not having too much cash tied up into having too much stock, right? And then we're thinking about, okay, if we've got too much stock, this might get wasted a lot quicker than you think. So those are the kind of advantages when you have a small amount of stock. You don't have too much money to spend, and you're not really thinking about, okay, all this stock is going to wither away or get wasted, right? Reporting to relevant others. We're talking about individuals responsible for making cost decisions will need to be informed when stock is in excess. A particular item might have to be put on offer or moved to a different location within the store or ordered to entice customers into buying. So, if you're thinking about, okay, we've got too much stock of this one thing, then your managers might decide, okay, we've got too much stock of XYZ soup. Okay, we're going to put a special on, we're going to make it 10% cheaper, or we're going to have this ready to go so everybody can purchase it. So that means now you're controlling your stock in increasing the sales of one thing and allowing it to essentially give you your tied up cash that you had in there. Okay, so but they're the ones making the decision. If it's not you, they're the ones that are going to be doing it, so they need to know. Okay. Alright, activity 2D, provide 2 examples of advantages of maintaining both high and low levels of stock. So like I said before, if you think about it, that you're not spending a lot of time going out and buying stock, you're able to make more production wise, your customers will be happy. There's not going to be an issue if you get extra orders and you're not running out of stock, right? But in the opposite, you're having too much money tied up. You don't have enough, if you don't have enough funds, you can't buy too much stock. So having low stock means that you don't have to put too much cash in. It also means that you don't really have to think about it expiring because you don't have too much stock. You can really have fresh products all the time. We're also thinking about, okay, we're not having to have a large area for stock. We can have a small area. We don't have to have too much security. We don't have to worry about having a specified room. We can just purchase it as it runs out. So think about me, where I'm located as Equish Restaurant. We're in a heavily populated area where there's other grocery stores that we can purchase from. So I don't need to spend a lot of money having a storage facility. But let's say if I was to open a restaurant on the highway where there are no shops, I need to now have a storage area that will at least, if my shopping cycle or ordering cycle is a week, that I have at least enough to last me more than the week. So you never want to order just enough. You just want to order just a little bit more. So 10% rule, I think, is good in that case. So if you're selling $10,000 worth of items, which is relatively low, you need to have $11,000 worth of stock so that you can run the business efficiently, at least. Why is it important to report excess stock to relevant others within the workplace? Well, they're the ones that are making the important decisions. They can make the decision on putting on specials or running ad campaigns or marketing to sell that stock to customers so that the cash can be freed up and essentially bring everything back to normal. They can also check, why is it in excess? Why are we not using this item? They can sell off the items to another supplier or another restaurant if possible. Things like that. They can make those decisions and they know what's going on. Okay, so complete those 2 questions. Unpause the video when you're ready and we can move on to the next one. Okay, rotate and maintain stock. So this is really important in the sense of first in, first out. So when you get old items in, you don't want to just keep those old items to the back. If you've got new items, put them to the back, bring out the old items, put them to the front. So you're always using whatever is the oldest first. You're not, by the time, let's say if you keep putting the stuff to the back, that's wasted product. You've never used it. So you hit the expiration date, now you've lost money. Okay, so we want to create as less wastage as possible. You're thinking about the environment, you're thinking about the bottom line, your pocket, your owner's pocket. You're thinking about, culturally and socially, we don't want to be wasting food. There's, people going hungry around the world. and just because we've made silly mistakes, we're now wasting food that could have been used. Maybe you don't need to make a profit, but maybe you don't need to waste and throw away products as well. This could have been in somebody else's tummy, keeping them alive for a day or two, So making those decisions are really important. So stock rotation and replenishment systems. The stock rotation system the organization chooses to employ should be easy to understand and operate. Examples of warehouse stock rotation systems include the 2-bay stock rotation system, the barcode system, the FIFO rotation system. So first in, first out is really easy on a small basis. It's just a good concept to know, right? So it's easy when you think about it. First in, first out. So, or last in, last out, right? Last in, first out. Think about it. When you're thinking, okay, I put this in last week, this jar of mayonnaise. So when you've got a new order of mayonnaise, you should be using the one that's the oldest, and then putting the newer ones to the back. Simple as that. Okay. Using stock turn rates to help you plan. So, or if you've got a software, this really helps, right? If you're doing this manually, it can get away from you. But when you're using a software, it allows you to kind of say, okay, what is the most popular product? What do we use the most? Can we get a better deal? If I'm buying, 200 kilos of rice every week, okay, but I'm only using 180 kilos, let's say roughly. So every week now we're in surplus of 20 kilos. And if we have a consistent sale rate, we could essentially say, instead of putting the money into the extra 20 kilos, we could only order 185, right? So it's just making sure that you're doing those calculations at the end of the day, so you reduce the cost and you're not wasting products. So you'd be able to calculate the stock turn rate, determine the cost of the goods sold, determine the cost of the stock on hand, divide the cost of goods sold by the cost of the stock on hand. So having those little calculations in place really allows you to know how much money you're making, how much it costs you, what are your percentages, things like that. Okay. How can you ensure that stock is rotated within your place of work for maximum use and minimum wastage? So proper processes in place following the organization's procedures, such as the 2-bay system, barcode system, or the FIFO system. There's other ways using software. You can record your receiving and your deliveries when you've got them. Having proper skilled people in the workplace who know how to manage these things, not hiring people who just have no clue on how to do these. It's very important that you know also the difference between certain items, and not everything will have the same longevity. So using common sense as well. Okay. Using that FIFO principle, whatever old things you have, putting them to the front, getting the new things, putting in the back, and rotating your stock around, so you're not using the newest thing first. You're always getting the old stuff out and then going on to the new stuff. Alright, so provide 2 examples of warehouse stock rotation. We've got the FIFO bay, the 2-bay system, we've got the barcode system, but it's also having skilled people in place so they know all these things. Okay, using the proper training in your company. If you're hiring new people, getting them through the training as well, very important. Okay, so when you're ready with that, unpause the video, come back, and we can go on to the next one. Okay, use your practical life experiences, what you've done, include some answers in there as well. And we'll move on to the next one. Rotate and maintain stock. 3.2, regularly check the quality of stock and report findings. So sometimes you might not be using a certain amount of stock and you forget, and then you go into it a month later and there's fungus in there. Nobody's touched it. It's a bit humid in there, or there's rodents and they've gone in there, allowed other bacteria to go in there as well, and now you've lost it. So if you're not regularly checking how your stock is going, how everything is. Maybe you've put stuff in the fridge for a week, but your fridge is broken. Now all that food in there is gone. So you need to do those checks. You need to make sure your equipment is operating correctly like you should, making sure there's not rodents coming in or anything like that. Okay. So checking stock quality, this is important for a number of reasons, such as to ensure stock items have not been damaged, to see whether environmental conditions have impacted on the items, to meet safety protocols, to prevent issues occurring with further stock, to minimize the chances of wastage. So you're looking at all of these factors when you're really checking, you don't want to be costing the company money, you don't want to be wasting things that could have gone to a better cause, you don't want to throw away things essentially that you could have gotten a use out of and made a profit. Okay, just having that extra walk for a day or two out of your month, maybe an hour every day just to check on everything and then back to work, or even just 5 to 10 minutes depending on how big your organization is, helps really solidify the quality, because you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening with the equipment that you've got there. They might be going out and not working properly, so anything could happen. Okay. Report findings. So when there are problems with the stocks, immediate communication should take place with management personnel. They will need to be informed about the name of the product, its reference number, the exact storage location, precise details of the quality problem. So now, based on that information, they can take the next step. They can go, okay, we don't need this item, we don't use it. Or they go, oh, we need this item today, how are we going to source it, where are we going to get it from, and how quickly can we get it? So they can take the action. Okay, we're just here, if we're lower level staff, we're here to essentially do the day-to-day A to B kind of stuff. But they're the ones putting in the order, they're the ones making the decisions, so they need to know these things so they can move forward with knowing all this and order something else, or maybe stop ordering this item because we don't sell it and there's no point to keep ordering it. So let's say if you got sweet yogurt and you've got normal yogurt, Greek yogurt, right? So the Greek yogurt's selling and nobody's buying the sweet yogurt. So what do? You essentially don't order them. You only sell what you're going to be selling, because otherwise you're going to be throwing away stuff that you purchased, so essentially money. So now you can change your business strategy and go, okay, we only sell Greek yogurt, so we're not going to sell sweet yogurt because nobody buys it. It's simple. Alright, 3B. Provide 3 reasons why it is important to regularly check the quality of the stock within your workplace. So we're making sure that we don't have any issues with our product, making sure that there's no fungus or any rodents or any malfunctioning equipment that might be hurting our products. We're not wasting money, we're not creating wastage, we're not also harming the environment because we're throwing away stuff, we're not we're thinking about others and socially responsible, that we're not throwing away food that could be consumed by others and just because we made a silly mistake. So expand on that, okay, and I think 3 to 4 reasons, more than that. Alright. What details do you need to provide when reporting issues regarding stock? So you're thinking about what the name and number, so label number or name that the item is, where it's located, what happened, why it happened, what could we do to rectify this situation, any suggestions that you could make. Okay, we need this because we have a group of 10 coming to purchase this product, or we have a function that we need wedding cakes, or whatever it might be. Okay, so then your supervisors can take action based on that. Alright, so once you're done, come back and we can move on to the next one. 3.3. Safely dispose of all excess or spoiled stock and waste, especially hazardous substances, to minimize negative environmental impacts. So very important. We don't want to be throwing away things that we could have used, and because of our negligence now we're having to throw it away. Okay, because now essentially we have to buy it from somewhere else, somebody has to produce more that we could have used. So waste removal advice. When it comes to waste removal, you should make sure that all waste is kept secure until it's collected. So recycle all glass, plastic, paper and card. Label the bins correctly. Don't throw away items that can still be used. Dispose of hazardous substances in the correct manner. So if you're wasting a lot of items, let's say if you use a lot of eggs and you have a lot of eggshells, you could essentially turn that into compost. If you're throwing away a lot of old bakery items, you could put that into composting. So you've got a lot of food scraps, things like that. Create a composting bin. Very much helpful, as you can give back to the community or have your own gardens that you could use it as fertilizer for. So it's very important that you know how to reuse. If you are throwing things away regularly, we don't want to be doing that. We want to create as less waste as possible. So if we're ordering more things as well, sometimes packaging can build up, like cardboard boxes, plastic, all this excess stuff, just to keep those products safe. Create a lot of waste. So don't just keep ordering products and throwing them away. First of all, money. We don't want to be wasting money, and then we don't want to be throwing things away that we could have used. Okay. So provide them, 5 examples of actions that you could take in order to safely dispose of excess or spoiled stock and waste. So we don't want to be mixing our plastics. We don't want to be mixing our cardboards or metals. So like cans or things like that. We don't want to be throwing away things that could have been used properly. We don't want to be throwing away things incorrectly. Like we don't want to be wasting food scraps or old food that could have been used for composting, and then we put it in the rubbish and it's gone to the tip somewhere and it's not really helping anybody. Okay, so we need to really think about all those kind of impacts socially and environmentally. We're also thinking about how can we minimize the waste. So maybe the organization sets a limit on how much waste we can produce. So then now we're limited to, let's say, only 50 kilos of waste a week. Okay, and then as we lower and lower, we will start thinking about how we can lower the waste and the amount of waste. Okay, also labeling the bins correctly, making sure things don't get mixed up or rodents don't get into the bins and then they create a mess. So things like that. Okay, so complete that question, include your own thoughts and examples, and then come back and we can move on to the next one. 3.4 Maintain cleanliness of stock, handling and storage areas, and identify and report problems. So very important. If you're not cleaning on a regular basis, you're going to have problems either way. It doesn't matter if it's in a stock area. You need to clean everywhere, right? So if I say if I would much rather if you're employed somewhere, if you're not working, you're cleaning, right? Very important, especially in the restaurant business. Customers, they want a clean location to come to. They don't want somewhere it's sticky or grimy or there's rats and cockroaches running around. They want somewhere that they can come day to day and expect the same level of hygiene that they would expect at home. You know what I mean? Okay, so maintain cleanliness of stock, handling and storage areas, and identify, report and problems. So maintaining cleanliness of storage facilities. This may involve storing stock items in an orderly fashion, so being organized, designating specific areas for specific stock items, so maybe certain sizes for certain items, certain locations due to the weight. Okay, storing similar stock items together, vacuum cleaning, sweeping, wiping floors and surfaces, disposing of unnecessary items. So we're always cleaning, we're always checking our stock, we're always making sure there's nothing that shouldn't be there when checking our equipment if it's functioning properly. Maintaining a cleanliness of the stock areas. So we could delegate cleaning and tidying tasks to a staff, designate a specific time of day or week solely to cleaning and tidying stock areas. labeling stock items alphabetically, install vertical shelf units to make use of as much space as possible, install hanging racks as well from ceilings. So we want to use as much the space to the optimal storage space. We want to be putting things in a correct way. We don't want to put heavy stuff on the top and light stuff on the bottom. We want to make sure everything that's bigger in size than the bottom, smaller at the top. So we're making sure all those things apply. Okay, making sure everything's labeled properly, it looks clean, it doesn't have any rodents. Okay, things like that. What may maintaining cleanliness and stock handling areas involve? So cleaning, sweeping, organizing, having proper storage areas and equipment, making sure the equipment is functioning, making sure you have a schedule. Maybe you might have somebody just employed to clean and maintain those areas, depending on how big your business is. Things like that. Okay, use your own thoughts, use your own suggestions as well, not just mine, but incorporate some of the things that you've done during your lifetime. If your parents, just think about at home when you were younger. You don't put everything on the bench. You put things away in the pantry, in the cupboard, so they're out of place, they're neatly in position, and when you need them, they're out. So if you had a cockroach problem, they wouldn't just be easily getting into your food. They would have to try something else, right? So provide 2 actions that could be taken to facilitate the process of maintaining cleanliness in stock handling and storage areas. So having a specific time of the day that we go in and cleaning the stock areas, having people that are designated to clean those stock areas, having a list of things that you need to do so that we don't forget what the cleaning procedures should look like, checking on all equipment, keeping a log of what we've done, very important. So yeah, if you have those things in there, it should be all good. Once you've completed that, come back and we can move on to the next one. So use stock control systems and equipment according to organizational speed and accuracy requirements. Stock control systems are used in order to monitor stock levels and prevent over or understocking from occurring. This may include the bin card system, integrated point of sale system, and ledger system. So we use our point of sale system to kind of manage our business in Ecush. So we would be logging our stock in there, how much we have. So let's say if I am in another country for holiday, I would still be able to order stock for my business from another country because my system tells me when I'm running low on rice or I'm running low on flour, whatever it might be. Okay, so having that system in place really allows you to have your process a lot easier. In no more than 300 words, describe the stock control systems used by your organization. So we use Loiverse. It's a point of sale system, storage system. It's essentially a business software. It tells you how much money that you've made, how much stock you've used, what's your most popular stock, what time you're using, and when do you receive it. You can log all your deliveries, what sort of items that you've putting in, where you're using them, in what products you're using them, how they're being used, what the quantity is being used every week, things like that. It can maintain all that, show you graphs of how things are happening. Okay. Alright, so this is the last activity. Before you guys head off, we should be completed with the learner workbook now. So once you've done that, submit that to your trainer as soon as possible. We will now need to complete our multiple choice questions, knowledge questions, and the skill and performance assessments as well. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your trainer or send me an email. If you see me around the college, just don't hesitate to ask me. Just pull me to the side, ask me the question, and I'll try and steer you to the best of my ability. Alright, so once you've completed this question, complete your learner workbook, submit that to your trainers, and then we will move on from this into the next unit. So if you've got any feedback, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Okay, and then we've got the knowledge and skill and performance assessment that we still need to do with the multiple choice. That's online. Alright, so if you've got any feedback, any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can ask your trainers or me. Just hit us up with your question with the email or face-to-face, and we'll try and get to you as soon as possible. Alright, so take it easy, finish up that workbook and send it to your trainer, and we'll go from there. Okay?